So today, in this video, we're going to take a look at Gears of War: The Rise of Raam comic book. First off, we're going to go through the Locust Horde and what we learn in the comic book about the Locust Society. And then second to that, we're going to go through the overall story of the comic book and the key plot points that come with the Rise of Raam. So, Locust Society is split into two major different halves, basically. You've got the military side, with the Locust Queen as the leader, and then you've got the religious side where they worship the Riftworms as the gods, and then the religion is called the Trinity. Now the Trinity do answer to the Locust Queen, but they're very distinct, different parts. So on the military side, at the beginning of the comic, you've got Uzul Shrak, who is basically a general level character. He's a formidable character. He's a lot bigger than Raam. Scourge refers to him as, sheer muscle. Uh, and, he's a very traditional character who answers directly to the Queen. And then under him, you've got your commanders, who they call Volds. And you've got Vold Ram, that's the rank he starts off. And then he's accompanied by Scourge, his friend. And then the other Vold you meet in the comics is Vold Khan, who you may remember was the bad guy in the Gears of War Judgment game, who did that big beastie thing. And then over on the Trinity, you've got Ukon. Now, Ukon's ideals are very modern, technology-wise. So he's responsible for all the mechanics on the corpses and the Brummocks, which help the Locust control them that much more. So he's very technological, looking to the future, and his belief is that technology infused with the Locust is going to be the future of the race. Contrary to that, you've got Vrol. He's a very traditionist. So his solution to everything is almost, let's pray to the Riftworm, let's awaken the Riftworms, and they'll basically save us. So he's quite an old-fashioned character in that respect. You also find out through the interactions between the various groups that Scourge was once part of the Trinity, but he got booted out. But we'll get into the reason for that a little bit more in the story analysis. Now, the story of the Rise of Raam starts with Raam and Scourge on the front lines, basically fighting for their lives as the Lambent are attacking them. And as a last-ditched effort, they set off a bomb and it blocks the tunnel that they're defending. Then Raam decides we're going to have to, report this to the Queen. It's a matter of time before we get defeated, and we're wasting our lives here. And his plan is to attack the surface where the humans have been infighting for that long. He feels it'll be an easier victory, and then the Locust can recoup and get ready to fight the Lambent again. So they head to the Horde. When they get there, Uzul Shrak won't grant them a audience with the Queen, and he basically beats up Raam a little bit and sends him on his way. So Raam, undeterred, thinks, right, I'll get some backing, I'll get some more evidence. So he goes to his Vold colleague Khan and speaks to him. Now Khan's been fighting on the front lines just like Raam has, and he can see again that they're getting dwindled down bit by bit. So Khan pledges his support to Raam. At the same time, he also sends off Scourge to speak with the Trinity and his old friend Vol, to explain that you need to help us convince the Queen that there's a better course of action available. However, initially, Vrol, being the traditionalist that he is, still thinking that the Riftworms are going to save him. He turns the offer down, and he says, "No, I'm not going to give you support." However, then the temple gets attacked by the Lambent, and they're quite into the inner hollow, so the Lambent aren't even meant to have been that in close. And then Raam shows up and basically saves them and stops the Lambent destroying the religious center of the Locust. At that point, Vrol pledges his support to Raam and says, I'll help you convince the Queen. And then at that point, they head back to speak to the Queen, with all the different characters giving their input, saying, it's got too far, we need to have a look at this. And then the Locust Queen basically demotes Uzul Shrak and promotes Raam to be the new Uzul. So then he becomes General Raam, and she gives the go-ahead to attack the surface. And that is the overview of the story of the rise of Ram, and that's where basically what happens before the events of Gears of War 1, when you see Ram as General Ram. There are a couple of bits in the story there that I've not necessarily told, a couple of surprises, so that if you do read the comic book yourself, you still, there's still going to be a little couple of twists and turns. Uh, yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video and the overview of the story, as well as the look into the locust culture. If you did enjoy the video, consider liking and subscribing to see more Gears of War content, as well as more gaming content. Hope you have a great day. Bye.